It's a cold and wet, miserable day here, and so I thought I'd spend some time in the garage and do a quick video of my Ducati build. So I bought the bike as a race bike back in, I guess, late summer of 2018, and it needed some recommissioning. It had been raced for a couple of seasons and just needed a rebuild, so I tore it right down to the bare frame. Modified the frame a bit. Kind of see it here. I bobbed the rear part of the frame. Obviously I'm not carrying a passenger or anything like that, and so saved a bit of weight. Moved the battery to the back here. Can't really see it up underneath, and there's also a power commander up underneath there as well, because you can see that the exhaust is not stock. Kind of an interesting combination of things. It's the front header and collector here by the rear master cylinder is from a Bimota DB4, and then the muffler that came with it was absolutely massive, huge, restrictive, so I cut that off and put a Cone Engineering megaphone on it that you can see there. I had an extra Hindle sticker though, so I stuck it on there because it was looking pretty bare. Hopefully it's the right sticker for a muffler. I'd hate to see that heat up and peel and look pretty horrible, but yeah, hopefully it works good. And if you move towards the front, you can see the open belt covers, the Speedy Motor sliders, and a distinctive lack of an airbox because I got rid of all the front fairing here, and so all the wiring had to go somewhere, and so it fits in the front of the frame. And I've got pod filters on there right now, but I was talking to Mark Sutton at Duck Shop, who recommended some sort of velocity stack configuration. So I've got an idea about how I'm going to do that. A misstep, I bought some fancy stacks from a dealer in Germany, and they don't fit the frame. It's yeah, hindsight being 2020, I really goofed. Hopefully they'll return it. If not, I'll have to sell them on because they're a bit of a pricey piece, and they do improve performance, but they are better suited for like a Hyper Motard or a Monster or something like that. So put new belts on. Found this slipper cut clutch assembly from an online place called Used Ducati Parts. Got it for an amazing price for a full slipper clutch. I think the blue might have had something to do with it, but not a popular color, but I thought it would go with what I wanted to do with my Ducati. Moved the oil cooler down. Couple of reasons. That's where the Superbikes house their oil cooler. This is an ST2 cooler. It's a bit larger in diameter, and it's curved. I fabricated a custom mount for it there, and made the hoses as well. Those are proper either race or aircraft spec AN hoses with some adapters on there. So I've run the bike a couple of times, and there's no leaks. Moving towards the front, when I bought the bike, the original rotors were down to their service minimum, so I knew I needed a new set. So I got these wave rotors for an amazing price, but I decided I was going to try to just get away with one. The bike is a lot lighter than stock, but the brake system's been upgraded, so single rotor race pads, Brembo 999 caliper, kind of the best of the Ducati axial mount calipers. So hopefully we'll be able to get away with one. Of course, braided lines, and if you move up to the front, this is a Yamaha R1/R6 Brembo Master 16 millimeter, which should work. But yeah, we'll have to see if it's got enough power to slow this massive beast down. Found a front number plate online. It was mislabeled. They weren't sure what it was from. It looks to me like a Husqvarna or KTM. Anyway, it's real carbon fiber, and so when I did the paint, I did leave a bit of the carbon fiber underlay visible. It's been spray painted with good old trim clad and then clear coated over. And yeah, back to the front, there's a Skitsu, I think is how you pronounce it, tachometer. Took me a while to figure out how to set it up. I think it was technically the wrong application. It was for a single cylinder configuration. good news is that I mounted the wire that goes to the high tension lead slightly differently, and I'm now getting the correct tachometer reading. Before it was reading half of what it should. Watching some online videos of the new bikes that come out, and they have, you know, mode switches and maps and all that sort of stuff, and it's pretty simple here. It's just on and off and start. And here, this is the actual on-off switch. So when I flip this switch here, prepare to be blinded by my LED lights. So incredibly bright. Oh, there goes the fuel pump. Oil light and neutral indicator. So to save my retinas, I'll turn those off again. And so this is just a security Jubilee clip I put in here to make sure that this isn't actually tripped and you end up killing the battery. Found these awesome 80s era Superbike grips online. New old stock, blue to match the rest of the bike. Gotta have that. Oh, and the forks. So the Ducati forks are adjustable, but they're known to be pretty poor quality. I've read a lot of articles about trying to improve them and putting in GSXR internals and yada yada yada. No access to a machine shop or real suspension guru around here, so I ended up buying these Andriani fork kits. Apparently they're very similar to Öhlins for a fraction of the price and basically idiot proof. Got some nice 5-weight oil from the local bike shop and put them together, and they went together very slick. New seals and bushings and everything, of course, too. You might as well do it right. And you can see I'm running handlebars versus clip-ons on these. So Renthal bars, an MX bend, slightly higher rise than I'd like, but it was all I could find. And these neat little adapters to turn bikes with clip-ons into bikes with higher bars, which is easier on my back, and I found that I can control a bike a bit better. I don't actually, a couple of times I've been able to run races in the wet with slicks or you know, cut slicks or DOT race tires, simply because the bars give you more control and you can stick your leg out all super motard style. Tank is left bare. If you know these horrible Ducati tanks, they've got some sort of plastic protrusion here that does nothing other than nail your kidneys. It has a little nipple here that's welded in, so I shaved that off, sanded it down, but rather than paint the tank, I went and stripped it, and the tank's gone down here, and it had at least a pound of Bondo on it, so I just forgot about it and sanded it off and left it bare. Going with stock rear sets, but I shaved them off and put solid pegs on here. These are just some I had lying around the garage. New chain, countershaft sprocket. Over on master cylinder there. What else? Oh, connected to a Ferrando clutch master cylinder. These are, I think, almost as good quality as a Brembo. Not the fancy name, but you know, they work good, and they are relatively cheap, and I've used them on a lot of different projects, so I'm pretty happy with them and how they've worked. Some Woodcraft lever guards on both ends. A sexy swing arm. As you can tell, this isn't stock from a 900, it's from a 1000 SSDS, so these are very rare. I actually was able to get it from Japan for a decent price. I didn't realize until I had it almost on the bike that these never came with any sort of lift stand bobbins. So luckily a local guy is a TIG welding guru, and I got him to add the mounts for the bobbins, and it makes life a lot easier when you're servicing the bike. There's a belly pan for it, of course, but I've got it off. A lot of heat transfer off this pipe, so I'm thinking of getting these pipes ceramic coated just to try to keep the heat down, but I've put some heat reflective material on the inside of the belly pan, and I'm just letting it stick on there nice and strong before I put it back on the bike. And besides, the next step is to take this to a dyno operator and get this thing fueling right with the open pod filters and the custom exhaust. Yeah, and the seat is just sort of a cafe racer style that I got from a shop in the Czech Republic called Moto Forza Fairings. They sell really good stuff, and even with the shipping, it's a good deal with the because you're not buying from the States, and the exchange rate for the Canadian dollar right now is pretty horrible. So yeah, after I modified the frame, I did get it sandblasted and coated with zinc chromate primer, and then I just used a 2-pack clear coat over the primer, and it's not a bad color. Certainly good enough for a race bike. This is actually the fast start, or what you call a choke lever nowadays, and underneath, mounted on the old steering head fairing mount, is a steering damper that I got. Can't remember what kind it is. Hyper Pro. So it's a decent quality, but it was mislabeled, and I got it for another good price. So yeah, not bad for a bike that I built over the winter in the garage. It does run, but like I said, it's miserable outside. I've kept the garage door closed, and I don't want to fire up the bike in what is basically an amplification chamber with no way to vent the exhaust gases. As it is, the time that I've run it, and I took it for a couple little spins around the block, it is running lean, which would make sense. So I need someone with more brains and equipment than me to make sure I'm dumping enough fuel in there, and the bike is feeling the way it should. So hopefully I'll have it out at the track sometime this summer.